what trends are you seeing in the wider CO2 business of late? Are these much the same as our other panelists have already suggested?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I was, let's say, assenting when I was listening to them, because we see, in essence, the same trends in the market, the same requests from many of our customers. I would say many, let's say, there's a lot of talk about carbon recovery or CO2 recovery in processes that were not doing it before. I think much of the time, kind of spurred by governments implementing now carbon taxes in many places around the world. So we see a lot of emphasis, as was mentioned by Christopher earlier, on ammonia plants that were before just releasing CO2 into the atmosphere to recover that CO2 and either sequester it or use it. We see a lot of integration now, I would say, between CO2 producers and CO2 consumers. We've worked in projects where a large CO2 producer is now piping pressurized CO2 using compressors to greenhouses to improve growth of different plants, and let's say with a direct pipeline. Obviously, these are kind of niche cases where you get lucky and the locations are quite close to each other. But I think these processes are becoming more and more common, where large industrial or chemical process where CO2 is not recovered is being recovered. This is clearly a trend. Then we also see a lot of power generation customers looking at what do we do with the CO2 emissions now the carbon taxes are coming. This is, I think, a tougher economical, let's say, justification for implementing CO2 recovery. There is the say the payback of taxation, or let's say not paying the carbon tax by reducing the CO2 emissions or capturing it. I think that already gives them an interesting payback in some cases, depending on how these are measured. So that is a new market we're seeing more and more. Besides that, we have seen also a large uptick on the biogas CO2 recovery process, and another one, which, let's say, it's a traditional process in any case, but now more and more it's taking more relevance, which is the carbon capture from hydrogen-related production processes. So, as you know, SMR, or steam methane reforming, which is the most common way of producing hydrogen, is clearly linked to a large amount of CO2 emissions globally. Now, more and more there is this intention to transform hydrogen production into a greener process, be it by green electrolysis, or in this case by capturing carbon from the traditional ways of producing it. Obviously, many of your readers will know this is called blue hydrogen, but this is a market that is, I think, becoming quite important lately, and a lot of attention is being put in that. So I would say SMR, either for hydrogen production or for hydrogen production for ammonia production, both very similar processes, are today the drivers of much of the CO2 recovery that is being implemented. So in that, I think the market will decant that way. There will be a large uptick of these, let's say, medium to large scale CO2 recovery processes. And I will also say that there's this trend, as mentioned earlier, of recovery from biogas production. This will also be there. Much of the biogas production in the world today is, let's say, not recovering CO2. So this is also a great opportunity for new trends to appear. Besides that, I would say that there are upcoming trends of when to use the CO2, and there's a lot of talk of methanization of hydrogen production or methanol synthesis, but I think these topics will come a bit later as the market stabilizes and that supply-demand situation is a bit more known. In any case, I think those are questions for a couple of years from now, in any case.